Karen Roby and Chris Matizjik here for ZDNet. You know, after much debate, much time has gone by, much conversation, we are happy to report Chris's wife has finally bought a new phone. This is a big deal, Chris.
It's an extremely big deal, both emotionally and, of course, technologically.
Absolutely.
Because regular readers would know that my wife has been debating desperately about what phone to upgrade to from her Galaxy S7, which has seen better days, a little like me, and is in a somewhat decrepit state and really desperately needed to be changed out. And so over the previous months, she's been doing her research. First of all, I tried to put one of those little iPhone SE 2020s in front of her. And when she saw the ad, she began to be very interested because this was a small phone and, even more importantly, an inexpensive phone, relatively speaking, at $400.
Right.
So then she went on the Verizon website because she's a Verizon customer and decided to see what she could do there. Unfortunately, she had 58 options there, which tended to confuse her. She tried to whittle it down, and she whittled it down to the iPhone SE 2020 or the Galaxy S10e. And you'll never guess what happened next.
What? Tell me. I don't even have a good guess.
Well, you see, at the end of the research on the website, having whittled it down to 2, she said, no, we have to go to Verizon store. I have to see these phones in real life.
I get it. Got to touch it.
You would want to do that, wouldn't you? You'd want to see whether it, matches your personality and your skin color and what have you, just whatever, makes you happy. So there we do. We went and got an appointment at a Verizon store. We arrived there. Our temperature is checked outside. We put our masks on, which was useful for me so that the Verizon salespeople couldn't see what I was actually thinking. And then we went inside and the excitement happened. We walked in and my wife said to the salesman as he put on his rubber gloves, looking a little like a proctologist, I have to say.
Oh, God.
She said to him, I'm really interested in the little iPhone. And so he immediately walked us over to the display of the little iPhone, the SE 2020, and he began to explain what a lovely phone it was. And she stared, and she was actually allowed to pick it up, which surprised me. I thought in these days of not being able to touch anything, but no, these were perfectly disinfected display models. And so she could pick it up and she liked it. But then, of course, she asked that crucial question. Isn't it difficult to change from Android to iOS? And the salesman said, well, no, not really, because Samsung has been copying Apple for years. And he really did say this. There have been so many lawsuits. And frankly, if you move from a Galaxy to an iPhone, it's no big deal. You'll get it pretty quickly. There'll be a few things that you'll find confusing, but still I could feel her doubting. When your wife doubts, it's you want her to be happy. And so she said, well, is there an Android equivalent of this little kind of sweet iPhone?
Yeah.
So guess what happened next?
She did not go Apple. She stayed with the Samsung.
This is merely Act 2, Karen. You're going to Act 3.
We're still building up. Okay.
Let's go to Act 2. So in Act 2, first of all, the salesman insisted that it didn't matter to him at all which phone she bought. Right. He waved over at Motorola's and LG's and said, yeah, I don't even mind if you buy those flip phones. Of course, he never showed us any of those flip phones. So he marched us over to the Samsung side of things when she asked for an Android equivalent. And then such a brilliant slate of salesmanship that, as you've ever seen, he said to her, well, your S7, when you bought it, that was a premium phone. So the effective equivalent of your S7 right now is the Galaxy S20. So the S20 is, of course, $1,000 phone. Yeah. So immediately he cleverly put it into her hands before she realized what was happening.
Right.
And almost as immediately she decided, oh, this is quite a nice phone. I quite like the look of this phone. Oh, it fits quite nicely in my hands. But still, she's a scientist. So she was trying to still grasp at her rationality. And she said to him, hold on. But this is the expensive phone. So what's the equivalent of in Samsung of the iPhone SE 2020? He said, well, it's the S10e, which she of course already knew. And she said, well, can you show me that one? And he said, well, no, not really. He said, we don't have that one on display. What we do have, he then went to his little iPad. He said, well, what we do have is this other Galaxy called the A51. It's cheaper, and have a look at that one instead, because here we have that on display. And of course, the A51 was too big for her hands. So suddenly she goes back to the S20 and begins to delight in it a little more. But then she catches herself. So what's the Apple equivalent of this S20, she said? We march back across. We're beginning Act 3 here, Karen. We march back across to the Apple side of things.
Right.
And he says, the salesman says, well, the equivalent of the S20 is this phone here in this picture. We don't have the phone on display because too many people keep picking it up. Okay, it's the iPhone 11 Pro, and it's wonderful, but it's an iPhone. And so then the magic moment happened. She began to falter emotionally, and she said, well, what's the price difference between the little iPhone and the S20? So suddenly, here is she declaring that she's interested in the one phone she said when she was researching she would never buy because it's too expensive. And this is what happens when you go buying things, isn't it? You tell yourself when you go to retail, you're going to buy this, and then strange things happen and you become interested in that.
Right.
Yeah, I once said that I'd never buy a white car or an Audi, and I ended up buying a white Audi. So seriously, so many years ago, I'm probably no different now though. And so he said, he looked it up on his iPad and he went, oh, there's a special offer right now on the 2020, on the S20. I've just looked up your account. Oh, what's the special offer? Well, it's $200 off. And so my wife says, oh, and what will that cost me a month, different from the little iPhone? And so a few little calculations happened, and lo and behold, there was only a $10 a month difference, or at least that's what he told her. And she walked out with the very phone she promised she would never buy.
I hate when you'd say that.
This is, honestly, she's delighted with it. She's still getting used to it in her hand, although she likes that it's not too wide. And I asked her the other day, I said, well, hold on. The little iPhone's 400. The Galaxy S20, even with a discount, was 800. So $10 a month over 2 years is $240. Where did the other $160 go?
Right.
And she said, who cares?
She's happy now, so who cares? That's exactly right.
And that's the thing. And that's why, to my mind, that as physical retail is very difficult right now, but I am astonished how people can buy phones simply by seeing videos, simply by ordering them online. I cannot conceive of buying a phone without being able to do exactly what my wife did, which is get suckered into buying a more expensive phone.
Right. She upgraded. I like that.
She certainly upgraded, which of course made me worry enormously, about her penchant for upgrading, but,
I love it. Well, I'm glad she's happy with her phone. And, the whole idea of, I've considered, moving to the Samsung. I've always been Apple, but I think that's still a thing, in our minds. The whole changeover seems a little daunting to me.
I think that's right. And I think the longer you spend in one ecosystem, you tell yourself you have more things in that ecosystem, and you are ever more resistant to worrying about transporting all those things to another ecosystem. And as long as there are enough choices in your ecosystem, which of course, in my wife's case, there weren't until there was that was a bit more expensive, I think you choose to stay in that ecosystem. And my sense is that every time I go to talk to retailers, there's not that much switching going on. However much research might say lots of Android people are switching to the little iPhone because it's little and it's an iPhone, but I'm not so sure how much that's happening.
Yeah, and I will say for the SE though, one of my teenage sons has that phone, and it is fantastic. And that price point, you can't beat it. I mean,
yeah, I think for a lot of people it works very well. In the
yeah,
end, though, battery life, the S20 has better battery. I mean, if you start talking the rationalities of it, clearly $1,000 phone should be better than a $400 phone, right? Should be.
absolutely.
And so here we are. My wife now has to buy a new case with new sparkly bits on the back.
Oh, sparkly bits, I love it. Does she do a pop socket? She into that?
No.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
she
Yeah.
has principles.
Oh, well, see, I've got the pop socket.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think she's going to succumb to that, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad to hear she finally was able to make a decision, and it is a big decision. And she had that phone for how long?
Oh, I should think at least 4 years.
Okay. So, that's actually longer than the life cycle most of us are seeing, right?
That's true. It's true.
Yeah. Well,
I should be grateful. I am.
You're grateful. I'm glad the big decision is over. Glad to see she upgraded and she's happy with what she has now.
Let's hope so.
All right, Chris, always a pleasure talking with you. Interesting journey with your wife to see her through this whole process. And we hope you guys will check out all of Chris's articles there on ZDNet. We thank you for watching today.